The following conversation is with a friend and one of the most inspirational people you will ever meet, Nick Santonastasso. In the video, unfortunately, we had some issues with the audio. So I promise you there's no one more upset about that than me, but I promise you the conversation is well worth a listen. Even with the little hiccups, I recommend you stick around for all the gems that you hear from Nick. So let's dive in. You're in for an incredible treat today. I have my good friend and fellow Italiano with me, Nick Santonastasso, but we have more than enough content out there to showcase his amazing story and inspirational journey. I really suggest you follow him for daily insights, comedy, and motivation every single day, and there's plenty of great podcasters out there that have showcased his amazing journey already. I don't want to do an injustice to that, so go out and definitely, if you don't know who Nick is, go watch those because it's an amazing thing. But today, we're actually going to talk a little bit more about his entrepreneurial journey over the past 5 to 10 years on how he's been able to basically create a network of some of the most influential people in the world, billionaires, Tony Robbins, Ed Mylett, some of the biggest names you'll hear, but also creating a multiple, 6 and 7 figure business, becoming one of the highest paid and highest sought after speakers in the world, and then pivoting in 2020. All types of fun stuff we're going to get into today. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurial journey and what's going on in Nick's life, you're in the right place. So Nick, thank you, brother.
My guy, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Man.
Let's dive into it because, like you mentioned, like the story's out there, and there's a ton of just very generic questions, and where you're going to take me, I'm glad to go. Yeah, so man. I'm an open book wherever you want to go with this.
Yeah, man. Like I am obsessed with entrepreneurship, right? And I didn't think I was. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you like at a young age that you think you were like, all right, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Like, was that even a thought?
No, absolutely not. I think a lot of the times we have evidence in our life of what's possible and what's not possible. And for me, like my parents, nothing wrong with that. My parents just worked a regular job. They still work a regular job. And my primary question was always like, how am I going to be independent, right? Like regardless of no legs of an arm, I've always had this yearn in my soul to like, I want to provide for myself and I don't want to ask people for help. And so I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur. My dad told me early on, like, you could be a sports announcer or a speaker. And I was like, I don't want to be a speaker, Dad. I don't know what I wanted to do at that time. But I wasn't exposed to entrepreneurship. But if I think back, like maybe, like I sold some bags of jerky in school, like those little things. Mm-hmm. But I knew when I got to like 18, 19 years old that I was definitely mentally unemployable, right? Like I didn't want to have a job. I had one job. It was a customer service job. I was terrible at it, terrible employee. And I knew that there was always this possibility to live the life on my own terms where I make my own schedule, I pay myself. Actually, when I was a young kid too, like I didn't want to work for anyone. I just wanted to play video games. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to build this life, but that's what I wanted. So I think I wasn't exposed to entrepreneurship. And if I never moved out of my hometown, I don't know if I would be an entrepreneur.
Okay, and I think I know a little bit about your story. Like
Yeah.
The first thing that moved you out was you were doing some prank videos
Yeah.
and things like that. And that like kind of started you on the journey of like, you went to LA for a little bit, right?
Yeah. So I was in high school, and as a young kid, there was always, I guess, news people coming to me, right? I was on the Today Show at 13. I met like Tiki Barber, and that was cool. And I guess I was just known for having no legs of an arm. There wasn't really a brand. There wasn't really a title. And then when I was in 2014, the app Vine came out, and Vine was where you could post 6-second videos where you had to be super creative. And my thought process was, and I guess this was entrepreneurial of me or business-minded, but I was like, I want to do something that has never been done before, that I could be the category king and no one can really replicate, and they can't like really compete with me. And that was when I made the idea, the decision that I was going to become a zombie prankster, right? I was going to go online and I was going to put fake blood on my clothes and fake blood on my face and set out and scare people. And I didn't know how big it was going to get. I just wanted to have fun. But also, I was in a place where I wasn't really fulfilled. I was struggling with my body, the fact that I'm growing up in my teen years. I don't have a girlfriend. I have no legs of an arm. Like, there's a lot going on. And anytime that I made people laugh or anytime that I served people, I felt the fuzzy feeling of fulfillment, and I wanted more of that, right? And so I made a prank video. It went super viral. It was like the #1 video on Vine. And that's when, it's pretty crazy. That's when like everybody comes out of the woodworks. Like Well, even let me talk some talk right now. Like, even in this day and age, like, people don't really take you serious until like you blow up, or people don't really take you serious until maybe you have a bunch of money, or you have the watch. Like, it's so funny. It's like all about like, what'd you do? What'd you accomplish? And I get it. And so once I posted those prank videos, I gained 1 million followers. I was a senior in high school. I was a wrestler as well. Like, there's a bunch of rabbit holes that we can go down, but that's when I started getting significance. And, you know, like, you can get significance in an empowering way, and you get significance in a not so empowering way. And I was just feeding into the significance. I was getting all the love and the praise, and people wanted pictures. And from there, I was like, okay, maybe I can take this pranking thing to the next level. And to be honest, if I look at it business-wise, Vine was fading out, and all of those, like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Curtis Laporte, there was a group that they get together and just co-collaborated with each other, which was really smart, and I wasn't in that group. But when Vine was fading out, everybody shifted to YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's it, like, I'm good, you know, like, I can't make that pivot, or that's too hard, or their videos are too edited, it's too professional. And like, now that I think about it, like, if I would have started YouTube, all of us, by the way, like, everybody watching, like, oh, I should have started YouTube 10 years ago. Like, everybody should have started. But I fell off. But I moved to LA. I was supposed to be on a TV show, like Impractical Jokers. Long story short, 2 weeks after I signed my lease, they're like, hey, the show's not getting picked up. I was going broke in LA, and to top it all off, like, my brother called me and was like, hey, I'm addicted to heroin, like, I need you to come home. So there was like a whirlwind of things that went on. And so I shifted from Prankster, I moved back home, and the guy with no legs but arms started to pursue bodybuilding.
And that's kind of like when you started like getting more traction and I think this was a really powerful thing that most people can take from, was like, oh, I just started doing things that were empowering to me. And then you learned along the way of like why it was empowering. Like, you know, you didn't know, I'm sure, at like 18 years old, like, you were seeking significance. You didn't know that you were seeking, you know what I mean, like fulfillment and all this other stuff. But like, that's the same kind of journey that I was on. Like, I had been fired from my 9-to-5 job. I knew I was really like mentally unemployable as well. But then like, I started getting thrown into door-to-door sales, and like, at first you're just like, I need to make money, blah blah blah, and then like, oh, I'm actually providing a value to somebody else. That makes me actually feel really good.
Yeah.
And like, that's part of like the entrepreneurial journey. I think that's like, I love entrepreneurship, and that because it gave us all the things that we actually needed, but we were going for the things that we wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I want money, I want fame, or you want all these things, but like, that's what it's like, oh, you give them what they want, and they get what they need.
Yeah.
That's what entrepreneurship did for me. You kind of agree with that, or?
Yeah, I agree. I think it taught me a lot about meeting people's needs, right? Like, what do people want? And like, not to get too nerdy and geeky, but like, people are operating at different levels of consciousness. Like, we were talking about this before camera. It's like, we can post really serious, value-driven content, and maybe a few people will enjoy it, or you can meet people where they're at and have like some comedy and some entertainment in it. And so I think for me, it also gave me evidence. I want to touch on that piece too, is like, everybody listening right now, it's like, your brain is the best detective, and you just need evidence. And maybe you're growing up and you don't have evidence that a harmonious relationship is possible. Maybe you're growing up and you don't have evidence that you can have your own job and make your own money because no one showed you that it was possible, right? And so anytime in business or with an idea, I'm just looking for proof of concept. I'm looking for the idea to work once, right? Like, oh, if I can make one viral video, I can make multiple viral videos. If I can gain a bunch of subscribers this month from my content, then like, I can replicate it over and over again. I just don't think people stick around long enough to get the evidence that they want. They quit too soon, right? And so for me, I got immediate evidence because like, I'm a walking thumbnail, and when I do pranks and it's funny. And so that blew up. But yeah, I moved back to Florida to become a bodybuilder. And that was like, I wore a lot of identities in my life. And I think for people listening right now as well, is like, surrender to the fact that the thing you're doing right now may not be the end all be all. And that's totally okay. Like, you're going to shift identities. You're going to do something different. You may not be known for what you're known for now in 15, 20 years, and that's totally okay. It's all stepping stones. And so, but to go back to your point, you can find out what fires you up and monetize it. 100%. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, because oftentimes we think we need to go into a specific field. It's like, no, like, Google high income skill sets. Right. Maybe like start there. Google high income skill sets, look down the list and be like, oh, that would be really amazing. But whatever you do, like my big thing is like whatever you do, become a well of knowledge in it. Because if you have more knowledge and more expertise than anyone, that's how you're positioned as the expert and the authority. You could be the expert in gardening and make viral videos. Right now, there's a lady probably on YouTube who's crushing it, filming gardening videos. Or like I know a lady that she has a monthly recurring model where it's like, I don't know, 25, 35 bucks a month. And every Friday, it's a group of women who drink wine and paint on Zoom. Bro, anything that you want to do, you can do. Yeah. You just have to be persistent enough, right? So it's taught me a bunch of things. I think the most important thing, though, is for me is aligning what fires me up and how I can serve the world with that. And I think that's like a perfect mix because, you know, money's cool at first, but if that's the sole driving force, you won't last in this world. That's my hallucination.
No, and I agree with that 100%. I think going back to like the original thought, you were like, I just wanted to feel in control of my life, right? Like that was the main factor for me too. I was telling John this the other day, was like the money and things like that, it was only always in my mind like a vessel to be in control of the decision because I didn't want to be in a position where somebody was telling me that I have to do X and then I'm doing this thing that I don't want to do and somebody's telling me I have to do it to buy something that's going to give me a momentary, you know, dopamine hit. Like I don't know why, like maybe I was wired differently, but like when I see people that are just like doing something that they know that they hate for the majority of the time to enjoy their life a small piece of time, it like that was a nightmare for me. Yeah. And I got like a little bit of glimpse of that every single day when I was dealing with senior citizens because I'm in, you know, the Medicare industry. But yeah, like, I don't know. That's why I don't know how people are wired. So like if that resonates with you, maybe you're wired like me. But like some people, they're wired a little bit differently. Like I know Sebastian, for instance, he is very wired by like the pleasure of like the outcomes. Yeah. So like he gets really pulled by that. I was always motivated by like the pain of like what I could end up like, you know?
Yeah.
So just kind of knowing that duality of like, yeah, of course I'm going to be motivated by some pleasurable things, but also I know for a fact when somebody pisses me off, that pushes me along harder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think motivates you more?
Pain for sure. I think most successful people have built an empire to like hide their trauma, right? Or to build a castle around their inner child. For me, same thing. It was pain. It was like, if I can have money, girls will like me, right? I'll be more attractive, right? I'm the 14-year-old in high school of like, when do girls like financial freedom in guys? You know, like I don't know why I was thinking that way, but for me, it was the pain of like, okay, I want to provide for myself. One, as a man, I even knew that like very early on. I was like, I don't want to rely on anyone else. I don't want to ask for anything. Like I want to be able to provide. I always saw my dad take care of those around him. Tips high, take care of family, experiences, trips. I was like, yo, that makes me feel really good. I want to do that stuff. But also, like I always talk about, women were a massive pain point for me. And I wanted to look at me, you know, like love me, give me attention, right? And we also realized that putting validation in women or external things is a slippery slope, but you got to go through that to understand that that's not the path and there's a different way. But for me, 100% pain. Even when it came to working out and bodybuilding, like I was like, damn, I can't change the no legs of an arm, but I can look good naked, or I can get a six pack, and that will increase my chances of conversions of women or something, whatever it was. And so for me, definitely was pain, and that's why I think most of us can look back and be glad of what we went through or what we were exposed to or what trauma maybe we've had, because it's all a catalyst if you decide to use it for change.
For sure. I think, yeah, a lot of times, like, people almost want to shy away from, like, the superficial things because they're like, oh, you know, why would I go? But I always tell people, I'm like, no, you should 100% do all of the superficial things to realize that, like, okay, I got that checked off. I can go a little deeper now. Yeah. Because, like, so many people like, oh, I need to go deep and like, but you still feel insecure on a surface level. So there's always like a little bit of like, oh, insecurity on like, oh, I don't look as good as I know I could look, or I don't have the money I know I could have, but like those aren't important, right? And then they like, people want to like shit on superficial things. Yeah. It's like, no, like you should get the nice car to know that you can get it, and then realize, like, you'll never realize that the car is not that important until you've gotten it.
100%, right? 100%. I was, and I'm sure a lot of people think like this. Maybe you've thought of this as well. I was definitely the kid that was like, if I could just make $5,000 a month, if I could just make 10, 15 grand a month, I'll never complain about anything. I'll have the best. And then you're like, it's actually like scary. It's almost disappointing because you're like, I know they told me it wasn't an answer, but it can't be like that. And then you get the car, you get the house, and it's like the law of familiarity, right? It's like, oh, this is just my life now. And even like, I don't know about you, but I have to constantly practice myself or practice the muscle of gratitude and appreciation for the moment. Because like, even this house, for example, like I wasn't supposed to, this was like far-fetched. You know, I had to make a bunch of money in 30 days in order to get the house. And I find myself like having days where I'm like, I'm just not far enough. I'm just not good enough. And then I look around like, bro, like this was your dream. Like you're living the dream. Okay, the goalpost moved, but like if you can't enjoy this, you're not going to enjoy the next level of car or the next level of house. But I was the kid that was like, wow, they were right. The money doesn't make you happy. I mean, it provides value and freedom and all those different things, but like you said, the materialistic things, they're just a byproduct of the person that you've become, right? And I think they're like trophies.
Yeah, I mean, I literally made a video on this the other day because I was like 21 years old and I listened to like a Jim Rohn quote.
Yeah.
And the quote's like, you need to become a millionaire, but not for the money, but because of the man it will be required to achieve that $1 million. And I remember like, at 21, I'm like, this guy, dude. I'm just trying to make $1 million. But then, like, throughout the process of like figuring out, it does require a lot of you to become that person that will make that $1 million. That's what can't be taken away, right? The money can always be taken away, moved, and it's just flowing, right? And when you know that you are proud about the person that you are and what you've built, like, that's what you can go to bed with, right? You can literally bring that to bed every single night. But if you don't like yourself, and that's kind of a transition into like meeting with all the people that you've met with, right? What do you think is like one of the most common, because you met with people where they might have a lot of the accolades, the successes and things like that, but maybe there's a little bit of like they're missing something. And also on the other side, like what do you think some of the people that have it and they have the outer successes, but also the internal, like can you kind of give some people like what you've seen? Because you've met with some, you know, a lot of very, very high level people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna pre-frame and say I'm not perfect, right? So I'm struggling too, and I'll share all the things that I struggle with. But I would say for the people that I've met that maybe have things like externally, but maybe are missing a few things internally, I would say that a lot of us base our worth off our bank account, and so the moment that money is not involved in the conversation, or that's not the main thing that we're focusing on, people tend to like crumble, or they feel less than because we're not talking about money, or we're not like, oh, I got a better car than you, and all this different type of stuff. And so I think myself included, like there was a lot of my worth tied to money. And so like even if the business doesn't perform 1 month, like I feel like a lesser man, and that's not a good feeling. Like that shouldn't happen, right? But that's like programming. Or like when the business is doing really good, it's like, oh, I'm extra confident. And it's like, it shouldn't be that way. It should be calculated, and that confidence should be produced like internally as an inside job. So that's something just to share as like something that I still struggle with, right? If like things aren't performing to the best of their ability or at super high, like I feel like less than, and I'm working on that because I can't solely tie my worth to money. And I think that's a big pattern that I see in this industry is like just people have a lot of money and that's what they base their identity off of. I think the other thing that we're both big believers in is like if you can have the money, but like if you don't take care of your body, like I don't really respect you that much, right? It's like it's one thing to be overweight when you don't have money, but if you have money and have all the resources, like it's like you're definitely neglecting. And so it just shows patterns in people and their behavior. And so I just feel like there's a lot of people. The way that I look at it, dude, is like we're all little children in adult bodies. So even when I see someone out there flexing and I know they're not whole and I know they're struggling and I know they have wounds, I just like, damn, that's a little boy hurt. You know, little boy's got a Lamborghini, the little boy's got the money, but like homeboy's hurt. And that's up to them to like be able to have the realization and actualization that there's work that needs to be done. But a lot of times too, you see people that just because they made a lot of money, they're totally closed off to coaching. They're totally closed off to new information. They're totally closed off. Like even just conversating, like their ego is so high. So that's the one thing. But on the flip side, I think the people that have the things externally but also have the things internally are very emotionally intelligent. They're very tuned into their emotions. They're very tuned. They've done a lot of personal development and healing work, but also they're constantly grounding themselves, and they're exercising the muscle of like gratitude, right? You know, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. So regardless of how much money comes into your bank account, if you're not in a state of gratitude for where you're at, you can't even receive the blessing. You can have all these blessings around you, but if you're not in that specific state, like you don't even feel it anyway. So I think the people that are crushing it internally and externally, they're whole. And what does that mean? That means that they know regardless of how much money they have or how much little money, how many followers or how many little followers, like they're comfortable with themselves and they love themselves. And that's like a unique place to get. Like I'm still working on getting that. And I think our whole intention here on earth is like to walk ourselves back down to wholeness, right? Like if, not to go off like on a weird rabbit hole, but like if you look at like Christ, like I wouldn't, let me pre-frame here and say I wouldn't hang out with most Christians. I'm not religious. I got a mural of Christ in the garage, you know, Seb did. But the reason why I'm so fascinated with Christ is because I think the Bible was code. I don't think the stories actually meant the stories. I think there's a deeper meaning. And when Christ said, I'm coming back, he didn't say he was coming back. He said Christ consciousness, which is wholeness, is coming back. And so if you look at the world, it's like, the world is wild, the world is crazy, there's a bunch of fear, we know there's a bunch of dark people doing dark things. And I think our whole intention on earth is to elevate consciousness and wholeness. Because like the great example is, you can never be, like if a room is full of light, right? You can't shine darkness into a room and make it darker. It's physically impossible. But if a room is pitch black, all you need is a little light on your phone to eliminate the darkness. And so what that means is light always wins, but we need enough people conscious in the earth to shift that vibration. Does that make sense? I went down a totally different rabbit hole, but I think we're all here to figure out how to love ourselves, and we're struggling. The fucking world's struggling. And by the way, it doesn't help that our societal programming or America's programming programs you that you need more and you need a bigger house and you need to flex harder. Like, well, we're in a flex culture, and it really screws a lot of dudes up.
And I think like transitioning back to like what we were kind of talking about before about, we believe that we have a duty because we've solved some problems. Like you said before, we're not whole, you know what I mean? Like we're always struggling with certain things at a time, but we're open, we're conscious, we're at least self-aware that like, I want myself and the people around me and the whole world at whole to feel better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so that's what we're trying to share. And in that sense, like most people don't want to just be whole at first. They need to be kind of Trojan horse into it. Sure. So that's why we're like, okay, we obviously believe that like we've solved a lot of problems in our own life because we felt like those, insecure, weak, men, like that society kind of built me up as. Yeah. I didn't know how I was going to feel significant. I didn't know how I was going to be valuable, but I saw this person with this thing, and I thought that was the answer. And I don't know how, like, so getting back to like, okay, well, how do we get the attention first, and then like, because that's what happened to us, right? Like somebody intrigued us, like Ty Lopez might have intrigued us with a Lamborghini, and then like, okay, well, there's something deeper than the Lamborghini that he's actually able to teach us too. So like, I think what we tend to do sometimes is like we try and teach, but like we forget that we're unique people and we need to get attention however we get it. And then if we have something deeper to offer, that's our duty, because we're fighting with a lot of people that are just trying to flex and then have just only surface things to give. Like, so we have to combat that. So it's like kind of a fun game that you're like, all right, I'm going to lean back into some of your comedy sketches. Like he said, like his comedy sketches have been getting millions of views over the last, couple weeks. And it's like, okay, let's lean into it. Let's get the eyeballs, right? So what was that like epiphany? Because obviously you said, okay, well, I need to be this professional because you started, obviously, you now became an entrepreneur. You're one of the highest paid speakers in this business. I need to be professional. What was like the transition of like, okay, I can be fun again?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is like recent. This is a recent breakthrough, right? Like we're always doing the work and always having breakthroughs. And so for me, right, I transitioned from pranking to bodybuilding, and then when I met Ratmir, my business partner, I went into speaking. And just think about it from an outside perspective, right? It's like I'm a 21-year-old kid. I didn't go to college. I have no business experience, and I don't really speak well. Like I was just getting thrown out on stages, and there were so many stones that people threw at me. Like, he only gets stages because he's disabled. He'll never be over a $5,000 speaker. He has no business experience. He's not tactical enough. And so I took all of those stones and then I flipped them and said, okay, I'm going to become extremely tactical. Okay, I'm going to get extremely business savvy. Okay, I'm going to get so many certifications and tools where like I can't be denied, And I did that, and I'm glad I went through that season, because now I know like I can speak, I can articulate, I can transform. I got the certifications, all these different things. But it got to the point, to be honest, where I was like not energized in the morning. I wasn't fired up to go into my work. I wasn't fired up to go speak on a Zoom call. Like, I was like, yo, like, is this it? Like, is it? I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I feel like there was a yearn again to like, maybe play, or I don't know. I believe in like signs. So things will give me signs and like, yo, or for example, like one of my internal sales girls, she was like, her mantra is like, if it's not playful, if it's not fun and not enjoyable, I don't do it. And I'm like, I'm the total opposite. And so this is very interesting. I love to share this with everybody. Is I was programmed that way. So let's break this down, and this is where the breakthrough comes. But I was doing inner child work with a coach, and she said, Nick, would you agree life was hard? I was like, yeah, life was kind of hard. She's like, what was hard about it? I was like, I don't know, everything. Like feeding myself, getting on a chair, dating, everything was hard. And she's like, so the programming is anytime something is easy and fun, you throw it away because your brain's like, that can't be the answer. It can't be that easy. And that was a massive realization for me. Like if I got into a relationship and it was easy, I'd be like, no, they got to be cheating on me, or it can't work. Or a business idea that worked immediately, I'd be like, nope, let's go over here and try this thing. And so I was programmed that I had to eat shit. I was programmed that it had to be hard. I was programmed that it had to be boring. And my latest breakthrough is like, yo, it doesn't need to be. And that's when I was like, okay, what's fun? What fires you up? What increases your energy? And how can we create the organization with the rule of the more Nick plays, the more we get paid?
Yeah.
And that makes us smile. Like even that rule makes us smile. So like that was the shift, and I was like, man, I buried that little boy. I'm going to bring him back. And what's so funny is I like tested this out with the content. Like a few weeks ago, I created a David Goggins video. I don't know if you saw it, but I was like running down the street, and I'm like, I'm 250 miles into my daily run, and my gonads are hitting the asphalt. Like, yeah, like I swear. And David Goggins commented on it. Went viral. 5 million views. And then I'm like, oh, this worked. Let me go back to serious Nick. Like, and I threw it away. And so now I'm not throwing it away. And now I'm like, okay, let's meet people where they're at. The world needs a laugh. And if my funny videos can be this massive spider web, there are going to be a few people that trickle into the serious content, and their life is going to be forever changed. And I was like, what if I took that approach? So now we're creating funny videos, and there's a new level of energy, right? Like I want people to understand that is like a few things. The first thing is it's okay to be lost, because on the other side of loss is found. Like being lost is a beautiful season. Like if you can sit in that, like you and I are both going to be lost in the future. There's going to be a moment where Matt's going to be like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do right now. And it's like, okay, good. Like, let's see where life takes me. So that's the first thing is like, if you're lost, on the other side is found, but also what fires you up? Because as an entrepreneur and as a leader, you have to transfer certainty to your people. You have to transfer certainty to your organization. And so when I came in hot and sat my camera guy down and Ratmir down, it's like, this is what we're going to do. I'm like, Theo Vaughn and Drake and this person. I'm like, and this is how we're going to collaborate with them. They were like, yes, yes, yes. But ultimately, if I'm driving the company, I have to believe in it. And so that was my big breakthrough. I was like, okay, like, Nick, you don't need to be serious all the time. You don't need to do that stuff. And so I'm learning. I'm in a phase of learning and activating that child.
Well, you're very in the stage of the journey, because what, are you 28 now? Or
27.
27, okay.
Yeah.
So 27 still. So that's like kind of the same thing. Like I have cornrows in, I got diamond earrings, I got a beard, you know, and I deal with.
I love that for you, by the way.
And and I deal with senior citizens.
Yeah.
Right. Like for many years, I had to become undeniable. Right. Like I had to prove to myself and to obviously my clients that like I know what I'm talking about. I can provide a valuable service. I know what I'm doing. Like I have value, and that is I think the part of the journey of the man. It's like, okay, but once you know that you're valuable, you can shed that and go back to being like who we are as boys, like a little boy, like I just want to play, right? I want to play, I want to build, I want to be proud of the man I am, right? I want to do that with the people that I like being around. So like I had to unlearn that as well. It took me many years to do that, but like then I started like growing my hair out. And I'm like, oh, my clients don't care at all. Like, they actually like me more. Yeah. Like, they're like, oh, this guy's super authentic. He's unique. He's, like, not like everybody else that I'm meeting with. It's, like, so plain, you know?
Like a robot.
Yeah, and my clients stay with me. Like, I have a 98%, like, retention. Like, my clients just stay with me.
Yeah.
They're like, why would I leave? Like, this guy's super, good at his craft. He takes care of me, and he knows what he's talking about.
100%.
So it's like, why would I leave?
Yeah.
And so that's, like, a message. Like, get very capable first, right?
Agreed.
So you do have to do the things, right? And I cut my hair, I wore the slacks, but I had to do that for myself because I didn't have any value, So become valuable, then of course, let those identities, mold into a newer version of you, right? So like, I don't know, that's kind of beautiful to hear because I love that old content, right? Like everybody does, right? And I think you have such a gift to give that it's a shame when we're not getting the eyeballs that need to see it.
Yeah.
And the ones, obviously, like, if we get 1 million eyeballs in, yeah, of course, some are going to trickle in. But like, damn, let me watch that long podcast about Nick and like how he literally changed his entire identity to become one of the most, sought after speakers in the world. Like, I want to learn how he did that. Like, I'm not feeling good about myself right now. That laugh made me feel great. How can I go get more from him? Yeah. So I love that. I love that about you, and I'm here because I want to continue to build things with you. Yeah. Like, what do you think the next journey that you're on is going to look like?
Yeah, for sure. So my intention with the serious stuff is to build one of the greatest speaking education companies or organizations, right? I want to have different workshops and different trainings for speakers. I think everybody has a story, and everybody can save someone's life with their story. And I don't want people harboring and holding their story because there's someone out there that needs them. So with the business side of things is building out all these speaking workshops and serving that way, but also in a playful way, right? It's a totally different energy when Nick's like not trying to overcompensate or trying to push people on stage versus like, hey, we're going to play, we're going to have some fun, and I'm going to share insights that could change your life. Is this cool? Right? Well, let's just play, right? I have a full day of playing today. And I think that's really important also, just a small shift is the meaning you attach to the work that you're doing. Right? Like if work is just like serious and serious and serious, that's the energy you're going to bring. Even me, I'm reframing like today. I'm probably speaking 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, man, this is a lot of speaking. Or I could be like, that's a lot of playing. I get to play with a bunch of people in the sandbox of life or the sandbox of stage. So for me, building out the speaking stuff, taking all of my earned income and putting it into cash flowing assets like mental health facilities, like rehab. I'm heavily invested in crypto. Ultimately, I want to build assets to where I'm making $50,000 to $100,000 a month, and then this version of Nick says I'm free. But of course, when I get there, things will change, and priorities will shift, and I'll be at a different level or a different place. But that's my compelling vision, is getting to a place where cash is coming in regardless of what I do, or God forbid I can't speak or something happens. That stuff's paid for, and I want to travel. I want to experience. The world is wild. We don't know what's going to happen, and I just want to. I want to live. I want to play more, right? And I've spent 7 years of my life. Like, I'm 27. I dedicated my whole entire 20s to business and entrepreneurship and being a road warrior. And I'm like, yo, let's get to the point where we can play. Like, I want to play. I don't want to miss this season. And so that's my focus. And we can dive into any which way that you want to go there, but that's what I want to build.
Yeah, I mean, you're still so young. Like, what you've accomplished at 27 is insane for most people,
Thank
right?
you.
Like, no, I genuinely, like, I look back at where I was at 27, and I dedicated my entire life to, like, after I got fired from my 9 to 5 at 21, like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm a bartender on nights and weekends. I'm not going to party. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to do anything other than work on my business and invest in real estate. And it took me, like, to probably right before 30 to, like, kind of start seeing some of the, the rewards start to seep in. But, like, it is the best thing when you can be like, all right, well, what's the next thing, next challenge, right? And I'm in a position now, I'm 36, where I have very steady assets coming in that kind of can fund my lifestyle. So I'm in the, say your next stage is where like now I'm in like the next stage trying to figure out where I am. So like there's always going to be like a new objective. So it's beautiful to see because like I know what that stage looks like, and then I know you're going to have another stage after that. So it's really fun, and obviously I'm all about helping you get there any way you can, and that's what I think these type of things, like these, podcasts. And I was in a car all day knocking on doors, and the only people that I had in my life to look up to were YouTube videos and Tony Robbins, tapes and stuff, and that's why we're making these videos. Like I'm making this because like this is what saved my life.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to give back best I can. So I'm learning from you so much, how to be a better speaker, how to communicate better, how to get the eyeballs, and like you said before, like I'm not going to be best at anything until you start trying things. Yeah. So yeah, like I'm excited to see you start trying things. I'm trying things, and yeah, I don't even know like what else you got going on other than that.
Yeah, I would say too, like with what you're doing, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like the only reason why you and I are here is because someone else gave us information. And I think that's really important for people to understand too, is when you see someone that is achieving success, or it's very hard to see someone that's younger than you and you're like, oh, I should be further ahead by now, that they're crushing it. Understand that it's not a superior thing, it's more of an information thing. And the question should become, what do they know that I don't know yet? And that's okay, like get curious. It's like, how can I get access to that information? And the truth is like some people have been given access to the information young, and some people takes 30, 40, 50 years, right? So I think what you and I do is so important because any information that we get, we're just giving it away to condense time for other people. So I think that's really powerful. The other thing that I'm getting into is real estate, right? So I'm doing Section 8 real estate, so learning from different mentors. Like my house, like one of my roommates, he's my best friend from high school, and I was like, bro, just run this play. You'll do it way faster than I did. I've already walked the path. If I dabbled in real estate earlier, I'd have more cash flow. I was like, if you just execute on this plan right now, you'll have a way better passive income strategy than I do at 27. Like you could do it right now. So I love just helping people break out. I love giving people shifts in the breakthroughs, and apparently I love making people laugh, and that's why we're doing some funny content. But like, bro, I have a massive mission. My intention, and whatever the date is today, we can look back on this podcast and be like, damn, homie did it. But with this shift into entertainment, I'm going to go back and blow up in the entertainment world. I'm talking about like 10, 20 million followers, get back up to where I was. They're going to be like, oh, he's back. And then I'm going to have all these eyeballs on him. And by the way, with the big thing that I was afraid of is like, okay, well, if I have this massive audience, but they're not ideal, how am I going to sell my products? It's like, okay, I can crack into cold traffic. Or in addition, the offer changes. That's all, right? So based off of your audience, and by the way, I'm just following the algorithm here, meaning like YouTube praises me when I do funny stuff, Instagram, TikTok, they praise me when I do funny stuff. Okay, if I gain an audience and they're not ideal for what I currently offer, all I have to do is survey them, identify their needs, and create something different, right? I don't need to stop what I'm doing. I can still serve those people that want to come. That's my bread and butter and the thing that I love. But as you build an audience, one of the greatest things that you can do is survey your audience and ask them, what do you want? What do you like? What are your problems? What are your challenges? And then you can package and position their needs into a product and give it to them. I'm thinking like when I become this massive entertainer and funny videos, I'm probably just going to drop merch to those people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or a Discord for $3, right? Like it's a totally different mindset. So I think it's fun building an audience and then cracking the Rubik's Cube of like exactly what they want. So my intention of what's next is to build this massive following, be very intentional about what I'm serving and what I'm offering those people. But also like something people don't know about me is like I love singing and I love rapping, right? And it's very funny, my friends, when you veer away and then you post a piece of content that you're like, oh, this is like what I really love, but I'm afraid to get judged and I'm afraid to get hate, and then you post that and the thing pops off. Like singing for me is very like, there's probably a lot of trauma because like I got denied, I got rejected, I told I wasn't good enough. Anytime that I post a singing video, it goes viral. And people are like, do you have music? And I'm like, no. I'm like, idiot, like So I think about the things that fire me up the most. I think about the things that I don't want to share because I don't want to get judged, because usually those are the things that you care about the most, right? And like, music's a piece of art. Even your content. Like, there's been so many times, right, where you have a piece of content, you're like, should I post it? Should I not? It means you care. It means you're really fired up about your work. And so I just want to keep leaning into the things that get me fired up and serving people as a byproduct. And I think with the skills and tools that we have, we always know how to offer something to monetize on the back end. And that's what I think my edge is as well, is like, I'm a nerdy digital marketer, right? Never in my life would I look back, and if I would have told 13-year-old Nick, like, you're going to be a digital marketer one day, I'm like, what the hell is a digital marketer? But here I am as a digital marketer with this entertainment side of me, and I know regardless of what audience I built, I will always identify what I can offer them to give them a deeper level of transformation. So I'm just playing now. That's my new thing. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just serving. I'm just playing. We're cracking cold traffic with master classes and all these different stuff, but I'm following the algorithm gods.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to just listen to them. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hold you up too much. Nick obviously is a very busy man. He already has 2 events that he's got to be talking on today, a couple masterminds. But it was a pleasure, like, obviously getting to know you over the past, half a year or so. We're going to keep growing together.
For sure.
And you guys can keep coming along. And we want to be part of it. We want you guys to come with us. We're going to be putting on events. And anything that you have questions about, go deeper, right? This guy has the goods, right? He unlocked a lot of things that most people will take 50, 70, 80 years of their life to uncover, if they ever uncover it. And then he's willing to give it to you and save you years of time, right? So if you can do that, you can get to a place faster, in a better quality, and enjoy the ride. Right. So,
absolutely. I'd love to give you your flowers on your own show. I think you're an incredible human being. I think you're heart-centered. I think you're grounded. And I think when someone looks at a mature masculine man, you are a great role model. There's so many things that within the way that you show up in your character that I'm taking notes. By the way, success leaves clues. So regardless of who you're hanging out with, I'm always learning. And I just think you're a phenomenal human being, and your heart is massive. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in your life and have a relationship with you.
Bro,
yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
And let's have more of that,
yeah.
Right? Like let's have more men coming together and lifting each other up, complimenting each other, acknowledging each other. Because like at the end of the day, I don't know about you, and we could talk for hours. Clearly, I'm a speaker, right? But I think if you didn't receive something as a child, build yourself into the man that child needed, but also surround yourself with brotherhood and sisterhood that can give you maybe what you didn't have as a child. And I think to end off, if there's one thing that I think was most powerful for me is realizing, and if I could build a brotherhood of like really grounded, masculine, servant-driven men, regardless of how much money I have or how little money I have, the most important things are the guys that I'm building stuff with, and whether we were rich or broke under a bridge, that we still have a great time together. And it takes the pressure off. So thank you for being in my life.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Just to end it with that, like, this guy is the truth. And I had to learn that the hard way to figure out that brotherhood is what will save us all. And not insecurity, but building each other up to be better, because we know that you can be. So we want you to win. Come win. All right?
Send in love. We'll see you on the other one. Well, you'll see him on the other one. It's his show.
Now he's coming back. Peace.